The opioid epidemic continues to tear through Virginia. Insight reporter Jimmy Sidney is taking a look at how pregnant women in jail are trying to get away from substance use disorder and what resources are there for them.
These women are currently incarcerated at Henrico County Jail. Denesia Elliott, Santaray Smith, Heather Bushman, and Bobby Joe Lashaway are just a few of the thousands of women in the U.S. experiencing pregnancy from behind bars.
It's really different. I've had a baby here before, so when I had a baby then, back in 18, I think it was, they didn't have doulas, or like you couldn't have anyone in the room with you, so you don't have like emotional or really physical support besides the CO. And
a doula is a woman who provides pregnant women with informational and emotional support before, during, and after childbirth. According to some studies, between 12,000 and 55,000 pregnant women are incarcerated each year. But according to the Marshall Project, government agencies don't even keep track of that number. Agencies also fail to keep track of the amount of incarcerated people who have substance use disorders. The National Institute of Drug Abuse estimates that 65% of incarcerated individuals have or are dealing with substance use disorder. Smith and Bushman both experienced substance use disorders before and during their pregnancies. Many women don't even know they're pregnant when they are being sentenced. Henrico County Jail is one of the few corrections facilities in the U.S. with social services specifically for incarcerated pregnant women. Captain Pamela Dismukes is a co-founder of the program. Activities include parental yoga, teaching about nutrition, and even support at birth.
We set them up with a doula, so when they go to the hospital to have the baby, they're their support system. They're there with them through the entire time, telling them what is going on, what's happening, what to expect.
Social service programs accessible to incarcerated pregnant women have become increasingly important, especially as the entire state of Virginia grapples with the opioid epidemic. Both law enforcement and advocate groups say that one of many areas to improve on is support services for incarcerated mothers who are dealing with drug use disorder. Carly Clements has been struggling with drug use disorder since high school. During her second pregnancy, she was incarcerated. She gave birth shackled to a hospital bed. Per Virginia law, she only got to spend 3 days with her daughter before being separated.
I had my baby, and she was healthy, but she did go through withdrawal for 30 days. There's nothing worse than watching your baby go through something like that, something that you know what it feels like because you've been through it a million times.
Clements says that she had gone to various rehab programs, but says the HARP program at Chesterfield County Jail is the only one that has worked.
Like I've said, I've been to a lot of rehabs, and I've never given it 100% because you can be lazy at these rehabs because they really don't care. It's a money thing, These people here, they actually care. They're not getting anything out of this but helping people.
Chesterfield County Sheriff Carl Leonard began noticing a sharp uptick in inmates with substance use disorder in 2015.
You get clean and sober, we release you when your time is up, send you back into the community, we think we did good, right? But in reality, we did nothing.
The Helping Addicts Recover Progressively program, or HARP, is a multifaceted voluntary program for incarcerated and formerly incarcerated people dealing with substance use disorder.
We got to give everybody, we've had 3,000 people through the program now, we've had to give 3,000 different variations of HARP to get everybody to the final point we want, long-term recovery.
HARP provides participants with dozens of approaches to rehabilitation. Methods include peer-to-peer counseling, trauma therapy, physical therapy, and even making TikTok videos to aid in the recovery process. Chesterfield Jail inmate Victoria Volk is involved with the HARP program. She has substance use disorders while being a mother. Her sentence is coming to an end, and she's coming out of the HARP program. Volk plans on working with other people going through recovery.
I've been the worst of it. I was found. They thought I was dead in a hotel room, and I was brought back to life and didn't even know it. But this is going to be my new career.
I run, I am loved.
I am loved.
Side of the eye, I am enough.
I am enough.
One of the methods of physical therapy being used by HARP is called tapping. Tapping is a method of emotional regulation in which the user taps certain pressure points on their body to relieve stress. You may have seen videos of HARP participants tapping going viral on TikTok.
And it brought out the emotions, and then we were able to kind of put it, after we were done tapping, we put a lid back on the box and put it away for another time.
Both Clements and Volks experienced childhood trauma which influenced their substance use disorder. Jason Pritchard is a peer recovery specialist for Savita Health, a chain of clinics that treat people suffering from addiction, particularly in Virginia and Tennessee. Jason specializes in areas with higher poverty and where labor injuries lead to opioid prescriptions.
So they kind of build on top of each other. So you have poverty, then you have trauma, then you have ACEs, then you have mental health, then you have addiction. And so it's just a compounding problem.
For many inmates, a big part of the recovery process includes being open about their story.
Well, since I've just gotten here, this is literally the first time I've ever even said that story, but I'm able to say that without crying and feeling bad and feeling like it is my fault now. Like, this is literally my first time telling the story, so it has helped.
For VCU Insight and the newsroom at VCU, my name is Jimmy Sidney.
Jimmy worked with CNS digital reporter Alyssa Hutton on this story.
Alyssa, is there any state money to help fund some of these programs?
So the Opioid Abatement Authority distributes money from pharmaceutical settlements. Virginia is set to receive over $1 billion through 2039. This money will be used toward many initiatives, including providing Narcan, which is the medicine used to reverse an opioid overdose for health departments, and investing in recovering homes. Unfortunately, the HART program at Chesterfield is unable to receive these funds because the program predates the OAA's creation. This is something Sheriff Leonard strongly disagrees with.
Jornay Clark is a lifeguard instructor at VCU. She says her everyday commute is a quick and easy 15-minute ride.
I kind of use it to get everywhere around Richmond. From Shaka to campus, sometimes all the way to like Willow Lawn.
Clark is one of thousands of Richmond residents who take the bus to work, shop, or escape the elements every day. Richmonders took over 9 million trips between GRTC's fixed routes, Pulse, and express routes last year.
Depends on between the stops. You actually see like a lot of students between here and MCV, but anywhere outside of that, it's kind of just like your more lower class that are trying to get to and from work, or like sometimes just homeless people hanging out on the bus.
While many riders take the bus to navigate around downtown, GRTC is expanding further into the counties with brand new routes. You can now take Bus 1A all the way out to Chesterfield Town Center, which is about a 30-minute ride from downtown. This provides people with new access to jobs and workplaces with new access to customers. GRTC spokesman Henry Bendon says more routes like 1A are en route.
We are looking at big extensions of the one. It's kind of sister route to the north this spring and then later again in the fall. So right now the one terminates at Azalea. It's going to continue up to Reynolds Community College and then beyond to Virginia Center Commons. And what both the 1A going south and the one going north are precursors to the North-South BRT project. And BRT is Bus Rapid Transit. That's a second pulse where we are just entering phase 2.
This project has the potential to connect people living in the Richmond metro area with an express service to anywhere in the city. It will also connect people living in the city to jobs and work outside of downtown.
The pulse is a long way out. More extensions of fixed route service, absolutely much shorter.
GRTC Link is a new zone-based rideshare program, similar to Uber, that will receive several major expansions in 2024, including to Ashland and Powhatan.
You can take the one to Azalea and hop on Link and go to Mechanicsville, where we're going to try and do that with even more places so that people can keep finding service wherever they are and wherever they go. Really expanding what it means to be able to get around, for everyone and not just for those with a car and the money to spend the $13,000 it costs on average a year to own a private vehicle.
When changes are made to the bus service, who should GRTC keep in mind? Rider Michael Vasquez commutes via Pulse Bus to work in Willow Lawn every day.
The main focus is new riders, but the old riders gonna be on there either way. You know what I mean? Everybody trying to save it down.
Clark remembers when the Pulse Bus cost $150 a ride.
It can help lessen the worry for certain people of like worrying about having the money to be able to catch the bus, to get to go to work, to make more money. You know what I mean? Like it makes things a lot easier and simpler.
71% of riders come from households making less than $40K a year.
Overwhelmingly, our riders are essential workers, and fundamentally, what we want to do is provide the best possible service for the people that are on the bus.
Richmond has extended fare-free riding through June of this year. GRTC has committed to finding new sources of funding to keep its buses fare-free.
We're going to find ways to fund it for next year. We are not giving up on this. This is a feature of the system. I will tell you right now, July 1st, when you get on a bus, there will not be a fare. And we are working to make sure that that is always the case. But it is a question of regional funding priorities, and we're doing our best to make that happen.
GRTC has not been without its challenges. As the houseless population in Richmond continues to rise, many take the bus to get out of the elements. GRTC has stepped up their safety measures on board by implementing catch and defer buttons, mirrors, and security cameras.
And every single one of our drivers is trained to keep an eye on board the bus. We've had some amazing moments where you've never read about stories that didn't happen because our operators are genuine heroes.
Despite its challenges, the GRTC is moving ahead in 2024 with free fares, GRTC Link, a second pulse, and service improvements on existing routes.
Instead of staying in the same area, you can move around, you know what I mean? Man, people can get out a little further. That's the way I see it. They can get out a little further, do what they need to do.
Reporting for VCU Insight and the newsroom at VCU, I'm Jimmy Sidney.
Coming up on this special edition of VCU Insight, we're taking a look at both sides in the debate over medical aid in dying or physician-assisted death in Virginia.
I know the stories, I know the truth. I know that women that look like me and other women, we're not just numbers. Next, how one freshman delegate is sharing her personal story and loss of her son as a way to raise awareness about the abnormally high maternal and infant mortality rate amongst Black women in the Commonwealth.
And a look at what social services are available to incarcerated pregnant women suffering from drug use disorder. It's all a part of the fight against the opioid epidemic. VCU Insight starts now. Hello and welcome to VCU Insight. My name is Nia McMillan.
And I'm Chelsea Brooks-Giles.
This is part of our special edition show.
We will be featuring the in-depth stories VCU Insight and Capitol News Service reporters have been working on all semester as part of the newsroom at VCU. Let's get right to it.
The debate in Virginia continues over a controversial bill that could allow people who are terminally ill to decide when they want to die.
The Virginia General Assembly pushed the medical aid in dying bill to next year's session, which means discussion will continue. I talked to both sides about how they believe medical aid in dying could impact Virginians.
A great family guy, you know, he wasn't someone who was living to work.
George Michael Vasiloff was a Marine with a passion for music.
He actually ended up playing in the Marine band instead of going to Vietnam. So he was a prolific musician. He played saxophone and clarinet and passed on, you know, his love of music to me.
But in 2013, George was diagnosed with ALS, a fatal type of motor neuron disease that attacks the muscles and nerves. Within a few months, the Northern Virginia resident, Kate Vasiloff, says her dad's condition had quickly worsened, drastically impacting his daily life.
By this spring, he was in a wheelchair completely. By, June, he was having trouble breathing.
Vasiloff says she and her father had one conversation about medical aid in dying. She says although her father had changed his mind about his do not resuscitate order, he still talked about having a choice in when he should die. She says mostly he was worried about his children.
Terrified that, what this would do to our family and what my brother and I would have to watch him go through. What I was saying, I didn't know what to do, but I knew in the moment I wanted to give him any, slice of peace I possibly could.
Medical aid in dying is not legal in the state of Virginia. Vasiloff believes her father should have had a choice.
Why don't we give people the autonomy to make decisions about their own body when their body is failing them?
George Vasiloff died 18 months after the ALS diagnosis. Virginia Senator Ghazala Hashmi has tried to get the medical aid in dying bill passed for 3 years. Hashmi says she introduced the bill because of the stories of her constituents.
I've heard from many people who say that they've lived in Virginia their entire lives. They want to die in Virginia, and they want to be able to have ownership over their final decisions in that regard.
Now, there are many different arguments as to why this bill should or should not be passed. For people on both sides of the issue, they say it's about respecting human lives. Dr. Sharon Quick, the current president of the Physicians for Compassionate Care Education Foundation, testified against this bill. She says it violates patient autonomy and can lead to elder abuse.
There's also the part of autonomy that is the capacity to choose. So you not only have a right to choose, but you have to have a capacity to choose. The right to choose has limits, and when it involves devaluing a person and killing a person, those are the foundational rights for autonomy, and you can't take away those or you've actually destroyed autonomy.
Rami Belsky, an end-of-life doula, says that respecting bodily autonomy is respecting the person's choice.
At the end of life, you see so much of a human's options and autonomy being taken away. They're losing control over pretty much every aspect of their life, their control, their body. And I think that being able to say, you know, you still have a choice in how long you want to live and how long you want to travel down this road. You get to choose at some point if you've had enough. And we can do this in a really gentle and beautiful way.
Several European countries, Canada, and parts of Australia provide medical aid in dying for people with unbearable suffering who meet specific criteria. Currently, 10 U.S. states and Washington, D.C. have legalized medical aid in dying for terminally ill patients who have 6 months or less to live. Although medical aid in dying is only available for people with terminal illnesses in the United States, some question if other countries' policies will influence the U.S. to expand the service's availability. Jeff Caruso, the executive director of the Virginia Catholic Conference, says the government has an obligation to prevent suicide.
If we look at those with disabilities, those with mental illnesses, those that do not have access to high-quality health care, and the elderly, these are all populations that would be at heightened risk if assisted suicide were to become part of Virginia law.
The argument of whether medical professionals' personal beliefs should overrule the rights and wishes of patients is ongoing. According to a survey done by the American Nurses Association, 57% of over 2,300 nurses support medical aid in dying as a professional, while only 49% support it personally. An opinion found on the American Medical Association website says medically assisted death is, quote, fundamentally incompatible with the physician's role as healers. Both sides argue that they are supporting their patients in the best way possible. Regardless of the debate, families like Kate's would rather not have to make this decision at all.
That was enough for me to take up this cause and realize there's so many families going through this. I want it to be an option for those, who are faced with this really, really horrible situation.
For VCU Insight in the newsroom at VCU, I'm Chelsea Brooks-Giles. I worked with CNS digital reporter Shelby Warren on the story. Her article gave some more details on this topic. Shelby, what was the first state to legalize physician-assisted death?
Oregon was the first to legalize the procedure in 1997. According to Oregon Health data, last year, 367 terminally ill patients used the prescribed medication. Based on my data analysis, in the past 25 years, over 2,700 patients have made this choice. That is an over 2,000% increase since 1998.
Thank you, Shelby.
Want to learn more about the stories we just told you about?
Check out the newsroom at VCU website, vcucns.com. You can check out the multimedia articles by the CNS and Insight reporters.
This is the last show for the spring semester. VCU Insight will return next fall, and we hope to see you then.
It has been our pleasure to bring you this newscast all semester. On behalf of everyone at VCU Insight, CNS, and the newsroom at VCU, thank you for watching. I'm Matt Bowman.
And I'm Carly Woodcock. Thank you.
The Virginia General Assembly is done for the year, wrapping up its 60-day session on Saturday. The newsroom at VCU Capitol correspondent Vali Jamal is in the studio with a look at the budget and which bills made it to the governor's desk. Vali?
Thanks, Chelsea. Lawmakers spent the day addressing conference committee reports, wrapping up any unfinished legislation, and passing a budget. Both parties shared their thoughts at the end of an eventful session. Republicans criticized Democratic policies on gun control, crime, and taxation. Democrats expressed support for much of the recent legislation, while criticizing Governor Youngkin for already vetoing some key measures. The budget includes increased spending through a number of key initiatives. This includes a 3% raise for teachers, $2.5 billion for K-12 education, $25 million for the creation of a child care center for state employees, over $149 million for the Metro in Northern Virginia, $150 million for Medicaid coverage, among others. Budget initiatives will be paid in part through a new tax on digital purchases. Democrats rejected the governor's proposed tax cuts. Democrats fast-tracked dozens of bills last week, sending them to the governor's desk. Governor Youngkin took action on over 80 bills, including codifying same-sex marriage protections into law and banning legacy admissions for Virginia colleges. He also vetoed bills that would have repealed the ban on surrogacy brokers, prevented schools from instituting book bans, and detailed how to remove guns from people convicted of domestic abuse. Youngkin also vetoed a bill allowing Virginia to rejoin the voter roll maintenance program known as ERIC. Youngkin also sent a number of bills back with amendments. Notably, he added a religious exemption to a bill expanding contraceptive access. Governor Youngkin has until April 8th to take action on hundreds of other bills. He has the option to sign bills into law, veto them, or take no action, which would lead to the bills becoming law anyway. The General Assembly will reconvene to address Youngkin's changes on April 17th. Reporting for VCU Capitol News Service and the newsroom at VCU, I'm Vali Jamal.
Across the country, people gathered to watch the solar eclipse on Monday, including here in Virginia. It was a partial solar eclipse in the Richmond area. VCU Insight reporter Carly Woodcock has more on how people gathered on VCU's campus to celebrate this historical day.
Hundreds of people came out to this historical event at the campus, and all of them made sure to have these specialized sunglasses to protect their eyes from the damage.
Onlookers found unique ways to capture this.
It's now time for VCU's Insight into sports for the week. VCU Insight reporter Matt Bowman is in the studio with a look at the VCU teams headed to the A-10 tournament, plus a look at the baseball season in the River City. Matt?
Thanks, Mark. The VCU women's tennis team season is coming to a close, and that means the team is heading to the Atlantic 10 tournament. Before the tournament, the Lady Rams went head-to-head with the University of Delaware Blue Hens this Wednesday, with the match going to Delaware. The team is now preparing for the A-10 tournament, which will take place in Orlando, Florida from April 24th to the 27th. The team has an overall record of 14-8 and hopes to hit the tournament ground running. The VCU women's lacrosse team will be playing a home game against the Richmond Spiders this Saturday. The team goes into the game hoping to break a 3-game losing streak after losses to UVA, GW, and UMass. With an overall record of 4-11, the women's lacrosse team is hoping to finish out their season on a high note by taking down the Spiders and St. Bonaventure on April 27th. After a 3-game series against St. Bonaventure, VCU baseball played Liberty on Tuesday, with the Rams winning 2-1. The team has an overall record of 23-13 and are hoping to gain a victory over Dayton this Friday for the start of a 3-game series which will end on April 21st. The team is also preparing for the Atlantic 10 tournament in May at Capital One Park in Tysons.